You try these, Christian?
Huh? No.
This is Christian's favorite one right here. Tap that Connor, tap that that computer.
That's a very fast
the
maraca,
mouse.
though.
There he goes. Okay, no, leave it there.
Very fast maraca.
See the HTML.
Damn, look, I took
Welcome into the Recipe Podcast, Celebrity Secrets to a Successful Life. I'm your host, Chef Charles Carroll. What a great day! What a great show we have for you today. This is the Gourmet Club Live, and we have a full house. We have a full house today. And before we get started, I just want to see if I can get that screen going. See that HTML cord there? That on the other side. Careful, yeah. I don't know if Jay, if you can figure out because that screen's not up there, but
the monitor's off.
The monitor's off.
What does that? It tastes like garlic. This one.
But we'll get into it.
That's a mustard. 2 different mustards.
Don't eat the dirt, though. Okay. All right. So here we are, Gourmet Club Live, and we got a lot going on. We got a lot of mics going on, and I want to get started here and introduce our guest in 1 second. But before we do, we got the Bobbit. How you doing, Bobbit?
Hey.
You doing all right?
Yeah.
We got herbs surrounding us, and this is pretty exciting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everything's good. Family's good. Mom and Dad's good.
For sure.
Yeah, that a girl.
Can I say a comment? She has a very clear voice, and nowadays, like, everybody you hear, especially women when they go out drinking the night before or whatever, or they just don't pay attention, they have that
raspiness.
Everything they're saying is like.
Yeah.
And Howard Stern talks about it all the time, and now I listen for it all the time because I hate it. It's the vocal fry. It's like,
gotcha.
You should have a clean, smooth voice. You're a young person or whatever. Why do you sound like that? And they'd be like, I'm not sure why.
So you're saying that the Bobbit's clear?
Clear, dude. That's what you want on the radio.
Straight
Yeah.
shooter.
Yeah.
Good.
That a girl. Yeah. She's pretty pure. Pretty pure. And HD Hog.
HD Hub. I swear to God, we were recording.
Come on.
Mic on?
What's up, HD?
Well, you're in HD. We have HD. AD.
There we go.
AD in HD is what I meant to say.
HD, yeah,
And I think he called you HD Hog.
Yeah.
That's what's up, man. You should have an alter ego. HD Hog.
You gotta make a better one than that.
He knows he's in HD.
Yes, I know I'm in HD. Thank you. But AD sounds so much.
AD, you doing all right?
Yes, I
We got herbs around us, bro.
Oh yeah, they look. Are they?
They're too fresh to smoke.
Too fresh to smoke, but if I can put them on some smoked salmon, I'm cool. What's up?
And we got Jay. Jay, everything okay? We're back online.
Everything.
And that was my fault.
The water's back on.
And we have the Venus flytrap in house. So that's back. Nice to have you back, man.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah,
And
good.
What has it been, like 4 months?
No.
3?
3.
3, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good, man. It's nice to have you back and being part of this show. Yeah, we have some special guests in house. We have James and his chef in house as well, Connor. So thanks to you guys for coming in.
Man, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, James, what's going on?
Just with the micros here, just a little show and tell.
Yeah.
A little nutrition maybe.
Yeah, we have a lot to cover here. So before we get started, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you and how this all started? Kind of tee this thing up a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I've been organic gardening for years, just as a hobby in the backyard, and I'd known about micros for a while, but it wasn't until the summer of 2016 that I decided to take the plunge and start researching and figure out how to grow them. And it took about 6 months to really get the methods dialed in, because I failed miserably hundreds of times where I was about to it's like, all right, this ain't going to work out. This is not for me. And at the time, I was in the specialty fitness equipment industry, and primarily focusing on fitness equipment, customized meal plans, meal prep, things like that. So got the micros dialed in and picked up the first restaurant in 2017 and grew it. It took about 11 months to go full time. 5 months prior to going full time, that's when it was a real challenge just to pull it off with the amount of hours that I wasn't sleeping. But it was a real challenge to just do I have what it takes to do this full time, not just learning production, but just to build the business up. Was able to make it through. Fortunate with the help of a lot of friends and family. We made it through Dividing and Conquered. Went through a lot of our hurdles, just like any startup business does. And so now we're at a point right now to really just expand and diversify in a lot of different areas. We have a lot of projects we're working on. Connor and I are doing a lot of cool stuff together. And it's just it's been a fun experience, a lot of challenges, and we continue to grow.
Gosh, I have a million questions, so this is exciting. I always like the startup, because a lot of people want to do something, they want to create something, they want to start a business, they want to do all of this. So I'm always interested in the grassroots of all this happening. So first of all, what popped into your head that it was going to be micros? How did that?
From a health and fitness standpoint, it was the nutritional aspect that appealed to me initially. When I was doing a lot of research, I was coming across articles that were talking about that at that stage of growth, a lot of them have a much higher nutrient density profile compared to the parent counterpart. For example, like for the broccoli sulforaphane concentration, if you're familiar with broccoli sprouts, although the microgreen is a next stage of growth, the sulforaphane concentration is substantially more concentrated than the parent counterpart. There's one study I came across where it had the daikon radish coming in as having 40 times the vitamin E over the parent counterpart. Cilantro, a 6-fold increase over the carotenoid concentration. The polyphenol concentration, these are very rich in polyphenols, the radishes, the folate content. So, and what's interesting is that they grow, many of them grow so fast, you can turn over a crop in a very short period of time, a fraction of the amount of time compared to a full radish or kale, and you're getting a very high concentration of nutrients in a very small footprint. So it's kind of like you're getting more for less in a sense.
And so this was, I think it was, did you say 2012 when you started?
Well, I started organic gardening back actually it was my brother and his wife that initially inspired me. I saw them growing in a very front yard in the Heights area, and I was like, well, I'm in health and fitness. I got to learn how to do this myself. So
what year was that when you started dabbling?
The microgreens was back in 2016 is when I started experimenting
All right,
with that.
so as chefs, we know that there are people are doing this. So at least you had some history to at least find out how people are doing it, right? I mean, there's a couple companies doing it.
Yeah.
But nobody in Houston at least that I don't know of. But so how did you started playing around and doing this at home?
Yeah, I started out in my kitchen, actually. I mean, I actually have a picture of the first rack. Just got a wire rack from Home Depot, some T5 fluorescent lights, and just started growing there and figuring out how to grow sunflower, broccoli, and a few others. And came across a lot of different issues with trying to figure out how to do cilantro. That was a huge challenge to figure out how to do cilantro.
I love cilantro.
But the micro cilantro we got, I mean, it's super flavorful, very intense.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's interesting about microgreens is that they don't have the same kind of pungent or peppery kind of aftertaste that certain herbs have. And they tend to be much cleaner, and interestingly, we find that kids love them. And that's one of the big things I think especially a lot of parents are going to really find interesting about microgreens is that when trying to introduce a nutrient-dense green into the diet, if the kids don't like greens, like a big stalk of broccoli, this would be a very, very approachable solution to that issue.
Yeah, my little 3-year-old, he may not eat, like 2 cups of broccoli, but he'll eat a half a cup of these microgreens, whether it's the pea shoots or the cilantro or something like that, and he'll eat those up, and he's getting a ton of nutrients in a smaller pack, So it's like, all right, if you're only going to eat a little bit of greens, eat some of these microgreens so that you get these nutrients, because he's a big boy like me. So
Yeah.
And they're convenient because you can we get asked all the time when we go to different shows, what do you do with these things? How do you use them? And it's just, they're convenient. You can put them on anything. You can put them on a sandwich. You can put them on eggs. Or we can get really creative, like with the pestos we've been creating, the lemon balm simple syrups, and that's the thing with Connor's, like we're just bouncing all these ideas and coming with these different innovative ways, creative ways to utilize microgreens, other than just putting them on a sandwich.
Yeah, I want to get into that too, and I want to get to you, Chef, too. But I want to get back now. So when you're in the house, you got a tray going, you got 2 trays going. At what point did you have the whole house full and you had to find somewhere else?
Oh gosh! All right, so here's the story behind that. Started out just in the kitchen. I actually had a separate room, and I called it the command center. So that's where We had 5 racks in there, ended up maxing those out, and it got so, I mean, we were popping circuit breakers left and right. So fortunately, my dad, he's really handy, and he helped me figure out how to map out the circuit breaker lines. So we had extension cords going in from outlet A, outlet B, outlet C, all over the whole entire house. Spread it out the whole. My house was a 1,200 square foot house. It's a tiny 300 bedroom house. So this whole house turned into a full blown grow house, literally a grow house. As we had racks in the actual, separate room that's supposed to be a guest bedroom, and then outgrew that into the living room. And so I had germ racks in my kitchen, grow racks in the living room. And my big concern was because my electrical bill was averaging $80, $90 a month. When I was peaking at that point and we had that whole thing maxed out, I was averaging $300 on an electrical bill. So I was like, gosh, am I going to get a knock on the door like, y'all growing? What are y'all growing in there, you know? So, and at that time when we maxed, and when I say maxed out, we literally could not light up any more racks. Because no matter where I plugged that electric rack in, it was popping and breaking no matter where I put. So we had that whole entire house maxed out. We were maxed out with every inch of that. And so, fortunately at that time...
All right, how many clients at that point?
We probably had around 20 to 30.
Oh, did you really?
20 to 30 at that point.
And were you full-time yet?
I went full-time. Yes, I was. Okay. I went full-time in November 2017. So when we started transitioning to our current location in Hempstead, that was in early mid-2018.
How did that conversation with the police go?
We did not have a conversation, actually. It never happened, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, but, and the way that transition happened was my dad was building a shop at that time that was supposed to be for car restoration. Because my dad, like our family has a racing background. My dad would build a lot of muscle cars in the day. So I mean, I have my Mustang. It's in the shop. It's getting worked on right now. My dad has a Mustang, and that was supposed to be for car restoration. So my dad and I worked out a deal where I was going to get half the shop to expand in there, and so that was like a 1,300 square foot shop that we have. We ended up creating a wall in there to where one side's mine, one side's his. Said, Dad, I'm going to need the whole entire thing here.
Right.
And my dad, because he didn't know what this whole thing was going to look like, I said, Dad, you see the racks? We're doing pallet racks. The pallet racks are 11 feet high now. Mm-hmm. So he was like, well, let's see how this thing goes. And soon enough, we expanded. I mean, we had that whole area is just a whole entire grow shop right now. I mean, it's not user cars.
So you were able to start the business relatively with little money. I mean, going to Home Depot and getting some racks, and so minimal to get started.
Yeah.
But electrical bill goes up, and so is your dad a partner in the business?
Not legally, but it would be that my parents, they did assist with helping us divide, like getting some of the deliveries done. Because one of the biggest challenges at that time when I had a job was, how do I get all the deliveries done?
Yeah.
When I only have one day off, and that one day off is me going around trying to pick up business. Mm-hmm. And that was the reason why it got really tough is because I was lacking sleep all the time. 2 to 4 hours of sleep, 5-6 days a week. That was my sleep schedule.
What was your other job?
I was in the fitness equipment industry. So,
that's right, yeah.
So my house was in Cyprus, and I had to make deliveries going downtown multiple times throughout the week, and then go all the way to Sugar Land and do all that before work. And then after work, I still had to maintain, some level of fitness because of my industry. So I'd try to go work out, which the workouts weren't that great all the time because I was so dead tired. And go back home, get the production in, and get ready for the next day. So, I mean, I was constantly, fortunately, I was next to Whole Foods. So I was slamming energy drinks all the time, chocolate to maintain my sanity because I was walking around like a zombie every single day asking, am I even going to be able to make this? Is this the right move for me? Because I can't live like this forever. I can't live on 2 to 4 hours of sleep 5 to 6 days a week. So it was a real testament of, do I have the drive? Do you have the drive to do something that you really enjoy? And the microgreens is something I really enjoyed. And especially when we started getting into when I started experimenting with different adjusted flavor profiles like what we have here. Experimenting with different, how the nutrients impact the flavor of the crop, how it expresses itself differently. doing the microgreen art that we've done. I mean, that's how Microgangelo was born. If you go on our Instagram page, you'll see the microgreen art that we do. And so we do custom mosaics and that. And so the story behind that is I started doing it in the garage, and we did our first account. It was very rudimentary. I just wanted to do the microgreen art display as just this way of saying, hey, thanks for supporting us. So we did that display, and the feedback was great. I was like, okay, well, maybe there's something here. And I started researching on Google. I was like, what do you even call this? You know, I'm doing these displays and names and logos. I don't even know what to call it. So it's one of those kind of situations when you're by yourself and you start thinking, all of a sudden you start laughing at yourself. You're kind of glad nobody's around you because it makes it like you're laughing at your own joke. It was one of those things when I hear this Microgangelo thing start popping up in my mind, and I'm in the middle of doing the microgreen art, so I start laughing at myself. And so then I talked to a couple of friends like, man, that's a cool name. It's kind of catchy. You ought to run with that. I'm like, okay, cool. So that's how Microgangelo was born. And ended up dialing in the processes with contouring, layering, grow cycle timing on the microgreen art, and had a lot of problems with that initially. I figured out how to get it to work right, and then I started showing my mom how to do it. And so then my mom started getting really good at it.
Wow.
So now with the microgreen art, also provide oversight on some of the projects, but she's gotten so good. It's kind of like, the student becomes better than the teacher.
Yeah.
At this thing, because she's got more of an artistic kind of touch. So now that she's doing the microgreen art, she's elevated to a whole new level with what we can do with the microgreen art.
That's cool.
But kind of going back to the transition with the grow house, we're based out in the Hempstead area right now. That's where we do the operation, and that was at that time I didn't have anybody helping out with the production side or doing delivery, so I was doing everything myself pretty much at that time. So until we had started building a team, I was still averaging, even though I went full time, I was still averaging ridiculous hours. I mean, there was quite a few nights when I was pulling all-nighters because sleeping on the floor. Like my naps would be 20, 30 minutes, hit the alarm, then get back and hit production because I had to get the production. It would take me 5 to 8 hours to do production. Then I have to go to deliveries or I have a meeting. And so that's, when you talk about startups, that's kind of the grind that I had to go through. I did have assistants in the back room from the accounting side of standpoint with some deliveries here and there, but the bulk of it, you got to stick with it. If you don't stick with it, you're going to either miss production, your customers aren't getting their product when they want to.
How long does it take to grow this?
That was about a 2.5 week grow cycle on that, on those mustards right there. So that right there, we have a regular, a bold, and a clean formula. The idea behind the clean is that it actually helps neutralize that green leafy interference, commonly associated with a lot of microgreens. With that bold formula, we tend to notice more of a crescendo effect in the back, the way that note hits. So what that does is
this one here?
Well, that's the clean form right there. So you get that, you're going to get a little bit more wasabi notes coming through.
Yeah, it's spicy.
When we use the regular formula, it's good, but it's more mild. It's kind of tamed down a little bit.
Yeah.
So you just want to get it like a good little serving size, and actually you'll taste like, okay, this one, then this note hits here, this comes in more like wasabi here. So we get to play around with how those notes need to hit, and that may have an application depending on what other accents we want to use for that dish.
Yeah. It's fantastic. I love this stuff. So how many employees do you have now?
We are a team of 6 right now.
Yeah.
We're a team of 6 right now.
And mom and dad on the payroll?
My mom is, yes. My dad, it's I guess not really like a payroll, but it's one of those things that when this thing really gets cranking, I definitely want to be in a position to start paying my parents back.
Yeah.
More so than what I'm able to right now, because they put a lot of time and effort into this whole thing.
I can make deliveries in my coupe. What's up?
Well, we have a customized rack that we use to make the deliver live trays here. We do live and we do cut. We do both.
Okay.
Well, it has wheels. You can just pull the car as you drive.
Yeah. And my dad built those racks because one of the things when we started out was we didn't have any racks. How do I deliver a live tray? So we just used rubber mats in the back of the vehicle so the trays wouldn't slide around. Yeah. And I said, Dad, we got to get a rack. So he built a rack, measured everything out, and so it started out with just 2 layers, and now we have full-blown racks we call it the micro van now because we're just delivering microgreens. And the next big thing we really need to work on getting at some point is an actual delivery vehicle that has a larger space capacity. So it's the business has organically grown. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of challenges, but I mean it's anybody starts a business knows that if you really want to go, you're gonna have to put in the time and the effort and
Copy
grind,
that.
and it's not gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Even though you start doing it as a hobby and you like doing it, the grind to get it to the point where you want it to get to. I mean, you're gonna be looking into losing sleep. You're gonna get frustrated. You're gonna learn from a lot of mistakes. There's gonna be times, and that you're gonna feel like this is not for me.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have a lot of self-doubt, and I experienced all of that.
And then you want to start smoking it and all.
You see, the crazy thing is,
Gonna smoke that fennel right there.
you see, that's crazy thing is when the chef, talked and he asked me about comedy, he was like, when did I know? I said, it got to a point where I just got tired of, I knew things would change when it was just, making the people laugh to like, oh man, I really can go places with this. And
Yeah.
you probably reached that, like you said, you reached that moment in your head like, damn, I really can help some individuals out and they can benefit more than just one thing. Not just make myself look good, I actually, can put some money in my pocket.
Oh, yeah.
So you're having the good problems right now. It's like, how can you continuously build on what you
Yeah,
have?
yeah.
And that's a point that we
And you
all
probably
reach.
your first point when you got paid for, you're like, I just made money for doing something.
It's
I
like
like.
$20.
Because that was my first thing when I got a page. I was like, I can't believe it. I just got paid for doing something I like to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's the most, even though it's something so small, it's one of the most rewarding experiences that I had with that first transaction.
Still looking for.
And it was really, and it was a boost of confidence.
Right.
That, hey, I think there's something here, so let's see what we can do with this and grow this.
So then you got to a point where mom's doing some decorating or arranging of it, and that's pretty cool. Then you realized, when did you have the epiphany about bringing on Chef Connor here?
I don't know if it was really an epiphany. It was kind of like, it was just something that's organically just grew into it. I mean, Connor, tell that story about how we connected initially.
Well, so quick background. I started in the restaurant industry when I was 15 years old, just as a dishwasher and busboy.
Houstonian?
I was born in Houston, lived here for 5 years, moved to Cairo, Egypt, lived there for 5 years, back to Houston for 4 years, down to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil for 5 years, and then I went to Johnson Wales up in Rhode Island for 3.5 years.
Okay.
And then I've been back in Houston ever since. Houston's always been home. But when I told my parents, since we had such international experience when I was going through high school and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, I said, well, I'm going to join the Marines, and do that until I can figure out what I want to do. And my parents were just like, and so they put me in every job possible. I connected with a guy who was playing on our high school basketball team. His dad owned or ran the Outback Steakhouse, of all places, an Outback Steakhouse in Rio, one of the highest grossing Outback steakhouses in the world. So this place was absolutely packed in Rio de Janeiro. And fell in love with it. Just loved the activity of it. Wasn't really on the cooking side, more of just the management side, the flow of it, just being on your feet all the time. It didn't feel like a 9-to-5 job. It was just so much fun. Came to Houston, did a couple shifts with some restaurants just to kind of get my feet wet. Was a good enough ball player to get myself into Johnson & Wales because the grades sure as hell weren't going to get me into Johnson & Wales. But I could put round ball and round hoop. Did the management side of it.
J&W gave you a scholarship for ball?
Well, not necessarily, but there's a few other things that they can do to kind of get you in.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So, but yeah,
Wow.
so
Didn't know that.
yeah, so you can work for the university. So I worked for the Marriott that they had up there, and with that you got a huge discount on your schooling, and then
Gotcha.
if you did the summer school, you got free room and board, and then you could knock out summer school as well while you're working at the same time.
Gotcha.
So it was like you kind of got paid to go to school, which was,
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about Johnson Wales or the CIA or
Yeah,
any of
yeah.
the schools, they're not cheap to go to.
Copy that.
So yeah,
Yeah.
So then, I came to Houston. I was just working in the restaurant industry, most of the front of the house side. Someone kind of wised me up and was like, so what's your end goal? And I said, to own my own restaurant. He said, well, what do you know about cooking? I said, well, enough. He's like, no. He's like, you need to know so a chef never kind of has you by the cojones,
Yeah.
So I literally just kind of went back to square zero. Started working in as many restaurants as possible. Basically just told him I'm going to be here from 1 month to 3 months and work my tail end off. I'll give you as much notice as possible. I'm going to work for dirt cheap, but I just got to get as much experience as possible. So I just did that. Finally found my way into an executive chef role. Did that for about 3.5 years, and then opened up my own food truck and catering company. Did that for 3.5 years. My business partner, we played ball down in Rio. He went to Paris to become a chef. He actually worked for Guy Savoy, Bobocuse, Gordon Ramsay, so he was a Michelin star trained chef. We had a food truck. We really didn't do food parks. We did, more open houses, private dining. We, had, a menu that was anywhere between 75 and 125 per person, because he kind of came with that, that demand, if you can cook, and I learned a ton under him. We ran into visa issues because Brazil was kind of going through its depression and really needed a bunch of young Brazilian men to come back, and they went any, mini, miny, mo with a bunch of visas, and we got Mo. So now he's back there. Sold the food truck. He's teaching now at the at one of the Le Cordon Bleus down there, so he's doing great. He's doing great things. It kind of, took the wind out of your sails a little bit. You're kind of down. You're kind of, something's taken from you.
Yeah.
I became a demo chef for a company local here in Houston, so I would just fly around the U.S. doing cooking demonstrations, showing their products. No free promo on this show though, so I won't mention their name. But did that for a while, and then ran into some health issues in my family that literally I had to drop everything and just kind of take care of the family member for 2 years. Quit everything, really just lost kind of a sense of self. I mean, anybody who knows, whether it's, a grower or a comedian or a chef, you kind of start to identify with that, and that becomes kind of what you are.
Right.
Every time you walk around, it's, what do you do? I'm a chef, and like people know, and you identify so much with that. So to have a loss of that, I kind of, because you can't, the restaurant industry requires 110% of yourself. Your family requires 110% of yourself. And then if you have something else that requires 110% of yourself, you're dead in the water.
Yeah.
So while we were still going through that, I literally just thought, okay, how can I help the restaurant industry? How can I make my biggest impacts? And there was a bunch of mom and pops kind of in the Katy area, and I just took my iPhone and some janky setup with my GoPro, started doing little videos. Just, hey, tell me about your business. Let's talk shop. When I was going through the restaurant industry, there really wasn't the David Chang podcast. There weren't podcasts like yours, and I also kind of just narrowed my focus, and I felt lost, and I felt, you go through it and you get your failures, no matter what craft you're in, but especially the restaurant industry where it feels like it's just trying to beat your ass every day. I was like, you know what, let's tell some true stories, like let's not do the, hey, this is for, KHOU, or this is for Food Network or something like that, where everybody's life was like Chef, the movie, you started the food truck, and, Gloria Estefan or whatever is your wife, it's like, let's tell some true stories, like, what are your struggles? And
what year was that when you started that?
So that was last year. So
that was your podcast?
Well, that was just the video series.
And you're putting that on YouTube, or?
I was just putting it up on Facebook, YouTube.
On Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
So just to help them out, it was, and also to kind of help anybody else who was in the industry. So I called it Cost of Goods Told.
Is it still up and running? Or?
Oh yeah. So we do the web series, we do the podcast. The podcast was great. So I met my co-producer, Darren Lafferty, reached out to me when I did the videos and things and said, hey, I like what you're doing. He introduced me to a bunch more people. One of the videos that I did on Brooks Place Barbecue, which is just north up in Cyprus, it was literally 10 minutes from my home, caught fire, and just like overnight, 10,000 views on Facebook,
wow.
And just kind of put me on the map a little bit, so to speak.
Yeah, sure.
So then I talked to Darren and I said, hey man, I'm thinking about doing a podcast, talking true stories about the restaurant industry, talking true stories about entrepreneurship, because every podcast that I listen to, everybody's trying to make it sound like, they didn't have failures, but everybody who I'm talking to is talking about their failures and the struggles and things like that. We had one subscriber, which was me. We had one janky microphone that my brother-in-law got me, and we did a test run. He pitched it to a couple people. We got a sponsor so that we could get 3 new microphones. We were still plugging it into my computer. And our first guest was actually Chef Arash, when he was working over at Beaver's. Gave us the private room to go in there, and we had Chef Ara from Harlem Road Texas Barbecue come on, and that just legitimized ourselves. And it just kind of took off from there. We've had everybody from, Wayne Mueller from Louis Mueller Barbecue, Chef Austin Simmons from Tris, Will and Nicole Smith from Corkscrew, all of these guys. I mean, just everybody and everybody. I don't mean to leave somebody off, from the podcast, but and so it just started to grow. And then, just like when you're learning your craft or anything like that, especially in the restaurant industry, it's like you got to just put in the hours. And so literally I was just creating as many videos as possible, not even publishing them, just to get proficient at it. And then on the opposite end, it was like I was just recording podcasts on my own, going back and listening, and then learning how to ask proper questions, or what have you, and just trying to hone a craft. It's just like if you're going to do a stand-up thing, you don't just walk up. I mean, everybody thinks you're just talking. It's like, no. Even as a demo chef, you have to practice that in the mirror and look at yourself and like, is that story coming across, properly,
And then to you were saying, I was just thinking about it as you was talking about your failures, even when James was speaking, and Chef, you probably can, attest to this, or anybody else in this table. Isn't it more fun and you have a sense of joy when you struggling? Like you get the best time, the funnest time, just to be able, not only just to tell that story, but just live it out. Because when you reach your point of success, I was just telling this to my girl the other day. I said, as we are trying to grow and we struggling, us smoking this 2 grams, like, we gonna enjoy the hell about this thing, right? But imagine that we had millions of dollars in our account, like we reached the peak of our success. I said that 2 grams ain't gonna feel as enjoyable as it was when we were struggling. It's I don't know, it's a sis was a backwards thinking to me. Like when you trying to rise, you have the best time, but when you reached your success, it's like, it's cool.
I think didn't we talk about this the other day? I think didn't we talk about when you're interviewing some of the biggest stars, right? Whether they're recording artists or ball players or whoever they are, when you start talking to them or talking about their background and tell us about yourself, they go back to that time when they were 5 in a van or something. You know what I mean? And they were going through that time. Those are the days, right? And,
and you've talked about it too, where it's kind of like when you're kind of in the shit and you're proving to yourself that I can do this. Kind of that first video that kind of caught fire. It's like, wow, like as opposed to a dish or in my restaurant, I can only touch those people that are right in front of me. This reached people in Canada. And you're like, oh, I can do this. And then it's almost like, if it starts to become not necessarily easy, but like once the waters start to calm, you're like, I work in chaos. I enjoy that chaos. I mean, that's what the restaurant industry is. It's a bunch of small fires that you learn to put out. Once you kind of get that rhythm down, it's like, all right, I can breathe, and I know that I can get through the next shit that's gonna happen. I know that if my AC unit craps out, I know who to call, or I definitely know how to fix it.
Well, getting back to what James was saying earlier, no, you're fine. Getting back to what James was saying, though, I can appreciate the, when you talk about the no sleep and all that, and struggling and trying to make things happen, and being an entrepreneur, because I got balls in the air, and some of these guys know about it, a lot of balls in the air, but it's hard being an entrepreneur, hard pushing to accomplish that dream, but you just got to get a win once in a while, right? A win would be sitting here with all you guys today. You got to count that as a win, or getting a special phone call that might lead to another lead. That's a win, right? So that's a little bit of gas in the tank that gets you to the next one, right? I mean, so being an entrepreneur, pushing to do these amazing things like what you have accomplished with your mom. I love the fact that you're working with your mom and dad. That you just got to go. You just got to get that next win, right? And to put enough gas in the tank and take you there. But again, how did you come on board now?
So through all of that, once the podcast kind of reached a certain audience, and I mean that was about halfway through, we basically called it season 1. Then I ran into James's artwork at the Houston Barbecue Festival. They had done a micro display for beavers. And I thought, there's a local guy doing microgreens. I had kind of come across it a little bit through, reading stuff, and I was kind of interested. So I sent James literally kind of like a text message, just like, yo, or Instagram message. And I was like, hey, I'm interested, can you tell me a little bit about your company? And then it was like paragraph. I was like, yo, dude, just give me the summary, And then we actually connected. We talked a couple times. I told him about the podcast and things, and he was like, what do you need to do to grow this? You know, I'm trying to grow my company. I'm trying to help people who are doing good things in the restaurant industry. So he actually sponsored season 2. And then just kind of through that, you know, we just started collaborating on a couple things. He had me out at the farm one time just to kind of show me the operation. I said, dude, this is absolutely incredible. This is the dream that you have. Like, it's the dream in the fact that it's like, okay, you are building something. You know, you have this, and you're working your tail end off, and you're doing what, you know, what everybody, you know, says that they want to do. And I just, you know, had such an appreciation for it, that I said, hey, you know, if anything ever comes up and we can partner on something, or you have some projects, you know, don't hesitate to give me a call. And then the phone just didn't stop ringing, which was great. And I said, look, I'd love to be a part of it. You know, we can figure it out as we go. And so we did the big one was the home and garden show out in Katy. And we set up a stage so chefs could come up and they could cook with the microgreens. And we had Chef James from Foddy's there. We had Ara from Harlem Road. We had Brett from Brett's barbecue shop on Mason. And they were up there. They were doing their brisket stuff, but they were also incorporating the microgreens into things. Off to the corner, I was doing micro cocktails. So we did a micro Cosmo, and then we did a micro mojito, you know, just showing people how to incorporate those microgreens. And we did a couple TV segments. We did a radio segment together.
Yeah, I saw your TV spot. It was on Channel 2, I think, right?
That was Channel 2, yeah.
Fox 26, yeah.
That one, literally, people were coming up to us. We saw you on TV, and we were just blown away.
People were coming from Woodlands and, like, Alvin just to see us, because I did the microgreens one-on-one, just to talk a little about what microgreens are and how they're being utilized. And it was really cool to see people there that it really signaled that there's a very high level of interest from the consumer standpoint. That it's kind of like what Sprouts were in terms of public awareness years ago, in terms of I think microgreens are kind of at that point, and they're starting to become more publicly aware as far as what they are into their health benefits.
Yeah, and it's just kind of grown from there, you know. And now we're trying to collaborate with more chefs. We're trying to work with them on how to utilize the microgreens a little bit more than just a garnish. You know, what can you turn these into? How to store them properly? You know, because a lot of chefs will just kind of, you know, top a salad with it, or top a burger with it. But there's a lot of different applications. But then also on the scientific side, where it's like, what happens when we dehydrate these? What happens when we turn these into a consumer packaged good? And that's been the new challenges, you know, because y'all touched upon it, where you were talking about that growth and everything, and you kind of hit a plateau, you know, and then to go from here to here doesn't require this much work. It requires this much work. And sorry, that's a bad example for audio listeners, but it requires substantial
about 6 inches more work is what you're saying.
Right? That's it. Just half a step more, you know. And so, you know, we're putting processes together to smooth production. We're putting processes together to not have loss, taking the overgrowth and turning it into a consumer packaged good, or something that's sustainable, so that there's no loss there, but turning it into a product, whether it's the pesto or the Bloody Mary mix base, you know, things like that, so that we can actually turn around and take something that was not necessarily going to go bad, but I mean, it's a fresh product, you know, and so to turn it into something that we can still use and we can still make money off of is huge, you know, because otherwise it's just dollars and cents, you know, out the back. And so we're experimenting with a bunch of different things doing that.
Well, tell us what you have here in front of us. Tell us what these products are, and James and Christian, you have anything else? Do you have any questions, or how many different products are you carrying now or growing?
So we grow over 60 different varieties of crops.
Wow.
And we don't just focus on micros, we can grow them to petite, baby sizes, wheatgrass, and we're actually working on edible flower production at the moment. So we're getting there. It's one that we've had a lot of requests for edible flowers.
But the cool thing that James does, and this is what really drew me to what he was doing as a farmer, was when he was working with the chefs, kind of like with the bold, the clean, and the regular formula, he's manipulating the soil so that chefs get the flavor profiles that they're looking for. If someone wants that high end, was, you know, that punch of wasabi, he can create that for you. So it's like, wait a second, like, if I get a carrot, it's a carrot, you know. You know, if I get cilantro, it's cilantro. But if I can get cilantro that, you know, is locally grown, it's going to pack a bunch of flavor, but then it can also be either grown to the length that I want it to, or also tweaked to the flavor profile where it's a little bit cleaner or it's a little bit dirtier, which dirty sounds bad, but like, I like that kind of like that earthy flavor, that earthy texture. Then it's like, wait a second, now you're being super creative on the growing side. And I don't see anybody in Houston really doing that, especially with micros. It's really hard to find someone who's being that creative and that scientific, and who's wanting to experiment with it, And I said, man, once marijuana is legal here in Houston or whatnot, we're gonna come up with some crazy flavor profiles or something, man. Like,
I'll be your first customer, baby. Trust me.
We'll have our own AD and HD, grow.
Just give me a small percentage of that.
There you go.
10%. I'm cool.
You get the AD, but if you want the HD,
There you go.
you're gonna come up with some new coin for that.
Hey, got to.
You know what I'm saying?
Got to. Something inspired with my name on it. Don't do that. Look, that's something we have off the damn.
There we go. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty super cool what you guys are doing, and we love the product. We're using the hell out of it at our club. So I think it's really cool what you're doing and what you've done. I love the story. I love the story of how. So what's next for you? I know the flowers are up and coming, but what's next for you, and what keeps you up at night?
A lot of stuff, but the main thing is the consumer and the retail. So we're working on finalizing our packaging, labeling, what the retail side needs to look like from cut to live, the signage, just so that way we can meet the demand for the consumer side that wants to purchase these products.
Working with the restaurants or even the grocery stores as well,
Yeah.
because sometimes they just don't know what they're getting. So you have to go in there with a bunch of samples. They got to taste it. They got to figure out, is there a demand for this? Which we have to start driving it. And
What about HEB?
HEB, Whole Foods is a different. We
Whole Foods, yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to really we're working towards that organic cert, and so they already have some conventional micros in there that are not USDA organic certified. So that's a whole nother process to go through that certification. So it's something that's on our radar, and in order to move forward that, we really need that certification. Even though we don't use any synthetics, we don't use any GMO type seeds or anything, we are organic. We just don't have that cert.
What about a place like Sprouts? Would they buy your stuff?
Haven't approached Sprouts yet.
Do we have a Sprouts here in
Yeah,
Houston?
we have
Yeah,
one.
well,
Multiple.
But
Yeah.
online orders, that's another big one too. We're working towards that too. Online orders, and also a lot of the R&D side that Connor and I are working on for other types of translations about how to incorporate the microgreens in different products, like the pestos or the simple syrups that we've done, or just any other type of creation that we're working on right now.
I want this on my
I bet it's
salad.
an interesting conversation to have. What's the biggest bang for the buck, and what in the business plan for you? Like what's next in the next 6 or 8 or 12 months? The biggest bang for the buck that you can do to take it from this level to that level.
Yeah, I think the retail side is definitely our one thing we're going after, but it's going to be the value-added products. That's going to be the most scalable part at this point, I think, is coming up with different, unique products that a lot of consumers just identify with every single day.
Yeah.
And so that's why partnering with Connor on these things, like we just got one idea and then it just builds on top of each other, and it's like, oh my gosh, so we got to write this down because we got a laundry list of ideas that we want to execute on. And so it would just be really impacting just the way everyday products that people see and changing that flavor based on the microgreen being incorporated in some capacity in those types of products.
What about like Vietnamese restaurants and stuff like that? Because like
Those
they use the simplest herbs for for pho,
Right.
And it's like it makes a big difference. Sometimes you get fresher herb, it changes the soup completely. But I've never seen any of these folks put microgreens in.
That'll be the next step, because because one, if you cook the microgreens too much, you're kind of losing it.
You have to finish.
Yeah,
You
but
have
that's
to
why they
finish.
put them on the
So
side.
if it's on the side
Yeah.
and you're putting it in that soup, you're going to get a huge kick
Kick.
of that flavor. Plus, it's kind of like the cilantro. The cilantro, if you just you could use a quarter as much cilantro, micro cilantro,
Yeah.
as you do regular cilantro, and get a ton of flavor
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah.
So like with the different flavors of basil too, you're not just putting like the the Thai basil in there, or
Right.
whatever, the Asian
Or like
basil.
in a spring roll, you know what I mean?
Exactly,
Like that would work really well.
So
Yeah.
we're working with that, and we're working on partnering with either restaurants or people who already have a consumer packaged good, whether it's a chimichurri sauce or something along those lines, and they want to incorporate big flavor without utilizing too much product, or using an all natural product to incorporate those flavors.
Yeah.
Or taking some of the spicy, the microgreens that have like a spicy note to it, and working with someone who's already making their own sausage, and it's like, hey, look, let's incorporate these microgreens in there so that you can get that spice flavor, and it's coming through cleaner, and it's coming through fresher.
Yeah.
On the other end.
There's a killer chimichurri at Silver Street Studios where Aaron works. There's a chimichurri guy. He's an Argentine guy. The flavor is rocking. He has a good combo. If you guys sold him some of his greens, he has one that has a little mint in it. And I like mint in chimichurri. But everybody's trying to make a great chimichurri. But when you find like the right formula, I mean, that guy.
Bet he might like that lemon balm.
Yeah,
The lemon
exactly.
balm.
You might make him famous.
Yeah, which I mean, it would be something that people may not be utilizing right now, and so we're trying to put that on the forefront. With the media side of things too. Being able to have those partnerships and work with those guys and get them the leg up. As opposed to coming out with the 0 Point Organics hot sauce. Okay, let's partner with a hot sauce company, because no one knows 0 Point Organics.
Actually, we didn't even say the name. I'm glad you brought that up. So while you're on that 0 Point Organics, we're up against it a little bit. James, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and how they can look you up and how they can buy some of this product, and some of our restaurants out there. And
Yeah, so if anybody wants to stay up to date, at our website, 0pointorganics.com, we have we have places where you can submit your email address. We'll keep everybody updated on community activities, online ordering updates. We'll be sending out newsletters on, we're going to send out one on microgreen mocktails coming up here pretty soon. Instagram, 0 Point Organics, or 0 Point Organics, and Facebook. And also for the microgreen art, it's micro.angelo. That's where we have all the microgreen art displays that we've done. So that's how people can connect with us.
cool. And Chef, anything else you want to again tell people where they can find you and your podcast? And
Sure, yes. Shameless plug, huh? At Cost of Goods Told on Instagram. Just search for it on YouTube, on Facebook, and everything. Cost of Goods Told. Be on the lookout, because we're going to be, with 0 Point Organics, we're going to be in grocery stores here pretty soon. A couple guys, so we'll be announcing that. We'll do a soft rollout, initially, and then once we start hitting the farmers markets, you'll be able to really, really support both James and I
great.
quite a bit. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, well, listen, guys, I sure do appreciate you coming in, and I've been eating these things. I can eat these things just like popcorn. Anyway.
I'll snack on them,
Yeah.
watching TV or
All
something.
day, yeah. So I appreciate you bringing them in and coming in and spending part of your day with us. So, all right, y'all, I appreciate you listening to our show, and Venus, thanks for coming back in, and Bob, good seeing you guys, and Jay and AD.
Hey, Dizzle.
What's up? Oh, sponsors, yeah. God damn. Sorry about that, sponsors. Sponsors, real quick, we want to thank you for trusting us with our show. We have My Company Radio. Go to mycompanyradio.com and check out how you can have the latest cutting-edge communication systems in the country. Go to mycompanyradio.com. Escoffier School of Culinary Arts. They have a flexible 100% online format for professionals. I don't care if you're working, have a real job, or families are involved. They have you go online and get your education, and that's super cool. And we have DR Delicacy. I love this company because they have all kinds of specialty products, and we use truffles and caviar from them like there's no tomorrow, and they have the best products, and they can have them to your door very, very quickly, and that is drdelicacy.com. And Aceway Incorporated, we love those guys because they have a great attention to detail. They'll clean anything, whether it's an office building or your kitchens, and they'll do it, and they're super nice people, and they will do whatever you need when you need it. So thank you all for trusting us with your show. Remember, you're special, you're great. Get off your ass and do something today. See you next time.
Music.